Hello and welcome to Talkin Baseball. Spring training has started. The new rules are taking shape. We're going to talk all about it. Let's do it. Hello and welcome to Talkin Baseball. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's brought to you by SeatGeek, code Jomboy preseason. My name is Jimmy. Jake is here. Trevor's here looking crispy in his white JM hoodie. And producer BBD behind the dish. Jake's back from his wedding. Trev, you look nice and tan. Is that just off the white shirt? And baseball's here. How's the wedding, Jake?
Oh. Pump fake. James, Trev, Davis, Jim, you already know is good. Doing well. Glad to be back with the lads. Those last couple days, we did a mini moon, Trev. You're a mini moon kind of guy. A couple recovery days after the wedding. You're already down there. You might as well recover down there. So Jess slept all over the resort, not with me. Was keeping my pulse on baseball. I didn't want you guys to run away from me too hard with some WBC and some of the other updates that were going on. But yeah, you guys know me. End of the day, I'm kind of a sports loser, so I was excited to get back into it. And we kind of stumbled into a big one today with the old pitch clock showing up. But a little Talkin baseball with myself back, Trev, is the return of the king. Got my ring, and excited to see that pretty face out in Kalanasty. How are you?
I'm doing great. It is very nice to have you back. I told you, there's only one way to destroy that ring, and I'll go with you.
All right.
Because you got to go to Mount Doom, throw it in the fiery pits, and then we'll finally be free. You might not be there yet. Yeah. And Mini Moon, like 2 honeymoons, we kind of talked about that on the show. Like, you're just different, huh?
Not the same.
I thought actually that you were out training with the Czech Republic team. You look like you could play on the Czech Republic team for the WBC. So I thought that's where you were, and the boys were going to have a chance, but you were just frolicking. So that's nice. Yes, pitch clock. A lot of reaction. One could say overreaction to the first couple days of it, and that's going to be a fun topic for us. James, what's up, bro? You look nice in your Jomboy gear.
It's too cold here still, so I had to wear the big old sweatshirt, the tie-dye Jomboy. It's like the warmest one we got. But let's get right into the pitch clock. This has been a wild weekend on the interwebs where people like to overreact and react thoroughly. I've been told many of times I'm not a baseball fan because I am pro speeding up the game and the pace of play. I have been for a while. I wasn't for a long time, and now I have been. So just in general, I guess we can go rip around here. If you have a general on the fence, like it, dislike it. But I think ultimately this is going to lead to such a better product once the kinks are ironed out. Jake?
I think that's the gist of it, is that there are some kinks that need to be ironed out. And there's been a lot of, whether they're former baseball players, people have been watching baseball for a long time. I understand some of the frustration, especially after we saw that Braves Red Sox game end in the 9th inning on a 3-2 count, bases loaded. I mean, it was the perfect storm for overreaction online. I don't think we're going to get any of those during the regular season. At least I hope not. And I poked around to a lot of my guys in the league, and I just asked them, like, what do you feel about the pitch clock? And the answers ranged for sure. There were some guys that didn't like it. Most guys did, but I think the consensus is the same, and we're going to have the same feeling as well. There just needs to be some things ironed out a little bit. And once we get those done, the pace of the game, I think, is much better. Like it's humming.
We like it. I think that's the general starting point, but the follow-up is it turned into baseball politics. It was literally politics on the internet, where it wasn't a conversation. It was ignore anything on either side of the fence and yell as loud as you can. Because the problem was everyone was kind of right, Like, the pitch clock and speeding the game up a little bit is good. And, Jim, I saw him getting into it and tweeting out some clips. Joe's McFly, he had the one, someone posted it on TikTok of how many inside the park home runs can Jose Altuve hit before this pitch gets thrown, and it was Pedro Baez in the playoffs. It was 5. So
it was more than that.
What we're cutting out is going to be really good. And like you said, kinks is the word. And I'm not talking about the mini moon still. But for me, it's, guess what? Those people were partially right. But on the internet, where sometimes the conversation doesn't happen, it's where it became a problem. That guess what? Even that Karen Check clip that you posted, James, I didn't like that. Because Karen Check's getting ready to throw. I know he does his dumb antics, but Karen Check, he pops up, his knee comes up, and they stop it. There's two different things going on. We're establishing a rule so people can abide by it, and we can go forward knowing that rule. But like the end of that Red Sox game, that also this is spring training, that game ended in a tie. We're establishing the rule as hard as we can right now, so that when the season comes and say that is a big pitch for Karen Check or that is a big pitch in that Red Sox game, that I don't think we need to blow the whistle there, because I think that's making more of a scene. Because like you said, Jim, there's already a rule in the baseball rules that there is a pitch clock.
Yeah, there's no
so
clock.
So it's how you enforce it.
There's been a rule for years saying that the pitcher has 12 seconds. They changed it to 15. So they gave him 3 more seconds. They're actually enforcing it now. They just never enforced it before. And it's really the batters, too. Like, I showed clips. That one clip that I tweeted out, I tweeted out a montage of all the slow-ass clips of Kenley, who takes so long. The batter steps out. So Kenley doesn't even start his routine until the batter steps back in. And the third baseman, Austin Riley, was running from third all the way to shallow right field for the shift. All that's gone. It was nothing. But I don't know. People are crazy if they think that there wasn't going to be an adjustment period. Like, it's spring training. All these people acting like they care about spring training is crazy to me. Games end in ties all the time. Sometimes in spring training games, the two managers walk out to home plate and say, let's just end it here, of a tie game. And it's spring training. You don't care about that Red Sox bases loaded ending at all. And you weren't watching the game. You're just up in arms about a clip you saw because you want to be up in arms. My biggest complaint from the pitch clock, if you want to hear something that I think they cannot do, is have the giant clock in frame on screen the entire time. I understand the pitcher needs to see it, so he needs something that he can see, and the catcher and everyone needs to see it. The Phillies broadcast, the Yankees broadcast, the Blue Jays, they didn't have it just visibly in sight. They had it like when it went to the 9 seconds, then they popped it up or made it part of the score bug. And that was much better. But having the whole game be a 15-second countdown was like, oh boy, this stinks. So I don't know if you can regulate that or limit it, but I would have it not for the TV product, having it just constantly. The first game, who was that? Was it Mariners?
That first one that was on.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It was Mariners 8.
Padres.
Mariners Padres.
Yeah, Machado got the first one.
That was big. That was a bad TV product. Having it was like the first thing you saw. So I would not have it be that big. But also in that game that I was watching it, and I wasn't on Twitter or anything, and I was like, oh, this is cool. They're not even rushed. They were pitching with 6 seconds left. I think pitchers are trying to go as fast as they can to build a better rhythm. Machado was the infraction, but the pitchers were fine. They were throwing like there wasn't even a pitcher that chased the clock where you were like, oh, throw it. Like they're throwing with 6 to 7 seconds left every game I watch. So I don't know. It's gonna get better. Like Eno was tweeting out the stats that the first 2 weeks when they implemented this in the minor leagues, there was 2 infractions every game. And then by week 6, there was 2 infractions.
It was like an infraction every other
week
game.
or 1 every 2 games. And then as it kept going, they became really, really rare. So that's what the goal is. The goal is for them to enforce the penalties so strong that by the season start, we don't have any penalties. Nobody wants a ball or a strike to be implemented for no reason.
And I think that was the math that we had over the weekend. There's 35 games, and Beavers, I think there were 69 infractions. Sorry about that. So right around 2 a game. It will go down. There's so many ways we can go with this conversation. James, when you said, you're watching these old clips and it's Kenley and then the batter steps out, that's a tale as old as time. The coach telling you, don't let the pitcher dictate what's going on. If he's taking a long time or going fast, make sure you call timeout. And now it's got my head spinning because hitters can only do that once a plate appearance. You can call timeout, reset the clock once a plate appearance. Does that mean the managers are going to step out of the dugout and call time? Can they do that?
I've never seen
because
that.
I watched a high school game last week or 2 weeks ago, and the pitcher was just mowing down these hitters and going pretty quickly. So the manager's yelling at the hitter to step out, and he's not doing it. So finally, he comes on the field and calls like an offensive team meeting, which is maybe you want to throw up in the stands. I seriously was like, this is disgusting. Is that going to come to Major League Baseball? And if that comes to Major League Baseball, I'm out on the whole thing. Throw the pitch clock away because I can't have managers calling timeout and doing offensive meetings. I can't have that. So if you're listening and you're a hitter and your manager wants a meeting, just go, no. Can't have that.
I'm in agreement there. I'm also like, let changes happen. Obviously, you make a big-ass rule like this, you can't, if you're Major League Baseball, you can't be firm and say, this is it, we're not changing at all. If we find out that maybe 17 seconds is just a little bit better and everyone feels much better, make it 17. But you have to let it play out. We have to see. We can't just scream after 2 games. Let them get used to it. But yeah, I'm fine if we get to the All-Star break and everyone's like, they did the sticky stuff halfway through the season. It's like, hey, people are adjusting. The game's better, but just 2 more seconds would just be a little. Make the change then. But it did need to happen because in the last 20 years, nobody knows how the in-between pitches has spiked like crazy.
Yeah. It comes down to enforcement for me. And like you said, they're going to be militaristic with it to start, to get it off the ground and going. And then you got to see where it lands. Because guess what? The other side of this is the umpires. And how many Talking Baseball shows have we done? And we talk about the umpire. A lot of those guys don't mind a little shine. And if they have a chance in a big moment and that clock makes the tick to 7 seconds or whatever it is, a lot of those guys are going to be excited to make the call. And that's part of it that worries you. I think the game isn't trying to become a different game with no breathing. You can still have enough breathing between pitches. And I think the reason the game got to where it was is that in those big moments, it is fun, man. And I think there are going to be times when we're sitting there wishing that you let it breathe. That 3-2 pitch with runners on, bases loaded, the reliever in the 7th inning, when the pitcher and the catcher aren't on the same page. Those are the beautiful moments in the game, but sometimes, or I guess too often, those were taking over. So we're going to get into a rhythm with it. People were overreacting because they were enforcing it at the highest level to try to get the players to live and breathe those rules, that it never becomes a factor, but it just becomes interesting when you put stuff in the hands of the umpires, because we've had a lot of situations where you end up saying ump show, and that's the last thing I want to see. I'd much rather see that 3-2 pitch get thrown than, with 7.5 seconds left on the clock. But it's the first day of spring training, and it's pure overreaction season.
Feels like people need to just have a beer about it.
Have a blue moon, Trev, It's go on the berm and have a blue moon. Otherwise, you ain't living.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you ain't living. Spring training is here, which means baseball is back. Tick, 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 tick. Blue Moon gives you a dose of ballpark nostalgia to get you excited for the season with their Belgium-style wheat ale. Oh, and that Valencia orange peel, my goodness. A smooth, creamy finish, a.k.a. the Trevor Plouffe. Get Blue Moon delivered by visiting get.bluemoonbeer.com/baseball. That's get.bluemoonbeer.com/baseball. made brighter. Celebrate responsibly. That's what we're about here. Celebrate, but responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Co., Golden, Colorado. Get yourself some Blue Moon beer and check out their delivery options. Why not?
Staying on the pitch clock in the spring training games. I tweeted this out, and anyone that's been listening since 2019 or 2020 has heard me say it a ton. But if there's anyone new listening, I probably have tweets out there that are the complete opposite sentiment of what I'm saying now. Where like I was like, pace of play is not an issue. MLB is dumb. Like time of game isn't an issue. It was fine. And I've said this a lot. Jake and I watched old World Series games from 1977 on, and I remember being like, oh shit, Jake, like they might be right. There's a lot more balls in play. The games there was a lot more action and quicker pace. And I've completely flipped by doing that. I'd never watched full innings, just highlights. And I thought that was just older fans being nostalgic, older, annoying fans. And then I was like, oh shit, they're actually right. And I completely flipped. Like if you put today's athleticism and power and ability, which I do think, as evolution goes, it just progresses into a better version of the sport, you're going to get the best product we've ever seen. So I've been an advocate of this for the last 3 years, especially the shift, because we witnessed how much just more action and more fun the game was. The most fun part about baseball sometimes when the ball is in play. And I got to say, my eyes were just hearts during spring training. It felt like a cold glass of water, like so refreshing to see base hits up the middle. Matt Olson hit one that was just out of the reach, second baseman. And he's like a big old smile. I think Soto, he got a couple hits that would not have been hits. Like base hits are back. Diving plays in the infield are going to be back. I'm so excited. And whether people will admit it now or they won't admit it later, like you're going to enjoy this version of baseball with the shift regulations. I'm so excited for it.
I think you nailed it there, because there's a couple old heads online and all they would ever talk about is let's bring the game back to the way it was. Well, we're not really doing that. Now, it might mimic it a little bit because the pace is better. And I think people have to realize that I don't think we care about how long the game is, as long as the pace is good. Like people want to go to the ballpark, and if it's a 3-hour game as opposed to a 2.5-hour game, I don't think people care as long as the pace is better. That's what we're really doing here.
4 minutes between balls in play last year.
Not good. So you're right, James. It might look as quick as a game in the 70s and 80s, but we're not playing 70s and 80s ball anymore. Like the athletes are different. Guys are throwing hard. The game is still the game as it is today, just a little bit better version of it. And this is interesting, because I said I sent some texts out to my guys. One guy he wanted to talk about it so badly that he's like, I can't, like, call me. Like, let's talk. So I got on the phone with him, and
no names, just sources, huh?
Yeah, because this one, he was a
Okay.
little against what was going on. So we talked, and he said, there was a few discussions during this offseason when we were talking about this, and there's supposed to be a common sense clause, and I believe there might still be like a common sense clause with the umpires. And I think that's going to come into play during the year, where there needs to be, like you said, 7.5 seconds, and the guy's lifting his knee. Let's not call an infraction on that. I don't know how they're going to do that during the year. If it's going to be like, hey, this is high leverage, and someone's going to wave a flag like infractions are off right here. Evan Longoria put out a good comment on one of our socials saying, like, this is a pitch clock, not a hitter's clock. So if the pitcher is ready to go at 8 seconds and the batter's not, let him throw the pitch. Let him throw the pitch. Let him do his job. Let him have to throw a strike instead of getting an automatic strike. And the counter to that would be, well, that's not really safe for the hitters if you're not ready to hit in a pitcher's throwing. It could be dangerous, but
he wouldn't like
hitters people, they know the pitch is coming. It's like they're there blindfolded. Like, if you're not ready at 8 seconds, understand that you might get hit with the ball if you're not looking. But at least I still think we should make the guy throw the pitch. So there's a little bit of wrinkle there. And specifically, this guy said, we brought a lot of this up to Major League Baseball, saying, like, we need to have some sort of high leverage clause, some sort of ninth inning clause, or something like that. And basically, Major League Baseball said no. Like, no, this is going to be it, and this is what we're going to do. Do I think they're going to stay with that firm stance all season? I don't think so. This has happened before. You guys remember this when they did like the catch throughout rule?
Yeah.
Where you had to maintain the ball throughout everything. There was no transfer. In spring training, there was some wild shit going on.
Yep.
People were catching the ball, having it for 2 or 3 seconds, then going to throw it and dropping it, and they called it a hit or an error or whatever. Then they changed that. Like, this is going to get tweaked with. It's going to be better. And I just think that, after watching, I watched like 2 or 3 games this weekend. I enjoyed it, dude. It was better to watch a baseball game. Like, it kept my eyes on the screen. How about that?
It was action packed. There was a game yesterday that had 15 runs in it, and it was 2.5 hours. And any game that had 15 runs in it last year was 3.5 hours long. Again, I don't fully care about total run time, and I actually don't want them to be under 2.5 hours. I think that's too quick of a product, especially with all the commercials that are still going to be in there. But it's also spring training. People are just ripping through it. But yeah, I'm for it, and I'm for changes if we need them. Like, if you turns out the 7th and 8th inning of close games stink now, okay. 3 runs, 7th or later, you get 20 seconds, whether there's runners on or runners off. Let's be open to changes down the road.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. This is the first iteration. We talked about this with PitchCom. Like, and I still think there's some stuff to go there. And like, Trev, you're talking about manager funny business. If you're the pitcher, once you get, my PitchCom's out. Like there's going to be so many ways to dance around this, and the players are going to learn. And guess what? There's going to be a fun part of it that I don't think we're to yet. I think we're still in the angry, I'm right, you're wrong, it needs to be this, it needs to be that. I was listening to an interview with our guy, Kevin Kiermaier, Toronto Blue Jays outfielder, Kevin Kiermaier.
Threw someone out this weekend.
And, talk about high tea. He was talking about how are guys going to take advantage of this? And I can't wait to get there. Like, our base runner's going to see that clock ticking. And, hey, there's 2 seconds on the clock. Maybe I can get my lead and get going now with the extra bases. Like, there's so many fun ripple effects to this that we haven't even really gotten to yet. Because we're in the muck. It's new. People hate change. And this will need to get tweaked. And we'll figure out what that is along the way. In general, it's a good thought. It's a good thing. The players are going to love it. Like they already do. I know, Trev, you have your whisperers out there. But for the majority, this is work for these guys. Like, and it can cut out an hour of your work time. And that could be an hour with your family or whatever it is. And guys are going to love that. So it's going to be tweaking and messing with it. It's going to be finding the right thing. And then it's going to be finding who's going to take advantage of it. And some of the stuff it's cutting out is chef's kiss. Like, Jimmy, that clip of Austin Riley going from 3rd to 2nd in the shift. That's not even anything. That's not even a sport. That's just a pause. We saw Justin Turner do that in the World Series. So getting rid
Honestly, that's when I was so out on the shift when we went to the World Series, Dodgers, and I talk about Dodgers, Rays, and watching them run back and forth between pitches was longer than the pitch. I was like, this sucks.
The shift rules are magnificent. The slightly larger bases, and Anthony Volpe winning Rookie of the Year. It's all going to be good. There's going to be hiccups to get there, and people are, so thirsty for baseball, so ornery on Twitter, and everyone feels like they have to pick a side. Being right around it in the middle with a tweak, that doesn't get you any likes. But if you got a hot take, if I tell you we should stop running when we hit homers, and that'll save you another 12 seconds, that gets you the like,
I was excited with my guy, Isaiah Kiner Falefa.
Woo!
He had some quotes about it, and it was cool to think about the other elements of this. One, he did say that he asked Yankees minor leaguer Volpe, who stole a ton of bases last year with the clock, about how to game it and how does it help the running game? Like what Jake's talking about. Do you use the clock to steal? And he was like, he's asking the minor leaguer for advice because he played with it last year. IKF also said people are going to love it. He said, we can't really check the piece of paper in our pocket where we should be in tendencies anymore, which is my key paper out of baseball. I mean, if this helps, I didn't even think that this would help that.
You and Rod Carew.
But me and Rod Carew. But IKF was like,
Hall
on
of Fame.
defense, you got to be ready to go. Like, we can't like look down and kick the dirt back and forth 3 times, take our glove off, take it on. Like, Todd Frazier used to spin the glove on his hand in between pitches. Like, it was like a little hangout fest. So I'm excited about that aspect too. Just go. And I would bet that when we're 2 years into this, and this is the baseball that people are accustomed to, with some tweaks or not, you go back and you watch old games like me and Jake did from the 70s, and you get to 2010 through 2020, you're going to be like, oh my God, this is slow. Still a slow sport, still a thinking sport. That's how they talked about baseball back in the 70s, 80s when it was a quicker pace. We just really slowed it down.
I'm curious, like, was it organizations that did this, individual players? Because, you want to be able to make adjustments pitch to pitch. The best in the world make adjustments pitch to pitch. And a lot of times, the coaching that you'd receive in pro ball is like, hey, like, make sure you're ready for this pitch. And we started to get bombarded with information pregame. The hitters' meetings changed so drastically during my career. My first couple years, I was like, this is the pitches this guy throws. Here's a few tendencies. This is going to be our general approach against him. As I got later into my career, it was like, here's all the zones, every single count. This is his percentage. Here's his tendencies times 50. And this is what we're going to do individually for this situation. And it was just like, what the fuck, dude? I'd almost fall asleep in these meetings because they were so ridiculous. And like, you were never going to retain all that information. But when you got up there, whether it was that or like social media, like getting your shine on, which I think for some of the guys, it was that, I think something happened, and it might've been just the bombardment of information and players being like, oh shit, what is he going to throw this count? I think that was part of it. I saw a lot of people, like older players on Twitter, just like crushing the pitch clock. And I just want everyone to shut up for a second and let this thing breathe. It's all I'm asking. Like, give it a freaking chance, because in your heart when you watch the game, it's a better product right now.
I think it's also what you said earlier, Trev. You were coached to own the time in the box. So when batters started stepping out, it changed the game because you wanted to be on the pitcher side. So now the batter steps out. That's what I learned watching this clip, because there was one that was Hunter Strickland versus... I forget who the batter was. Not Ozuna. But nothing happened. Like, he didn't have a Karinchak routine. There wasn't a runner moving in the shift. He was looking at the catcher the whole time. I was just, how was this 23 seconds long in between pitches? They were both just waiting each other out over like, he was ready, so then the batter steps out before he really sees the sign, and then he stops, and then they both go through their whole rhythms. It's like there's no reason for this one at all.
How often have we complimented hitters for stepping out when a pitcher's in rhythm, and we're like, nice, man, yep.
Break his rhythm up.
Smart baseball. I don't know. Guys will still find creative ways to do that. And a lot of guys are finding creative ways to deal with their hair loss. The numero uno way is with Roman. 42%, big number in baseball, by the way, of men experience moderate to extensive hair loss in their lifetime. The sooner a person starts treatment for hair loss, the easier it is to keep the hair they have. And Roman offers clinically proven medication to help treat hair loss, all from the comfort and privacy of your own home. 80% of men who use prescription hair loss treatment had no further hair loss after 2 years. Nip it in the bud, people. And they'll ship it discreetly. Free 2-day shipping. Take a free online visit. You'll talk to a U.S. licensed healthcare professional and get you the best treatment plan. And that's at ro.co/Jomboy. ro.co/Jomboy. And how about a little 20% off? A little kicker there. Oops. Sorry about you. ro.co/Jomboy. 20% off your first order.
Moving on to Manny.
I think so. I think we covered that pretty good.
All right. Manny Machado was going to opt out of his contract because the price of eggs has increased since he signed his last one.
It's true.
Padres heard him say that on our guy Ben and Wood's show, I believe, and said, oh, no, don't do that. We'll give you more money.
Yeah.
It's easy. So they gave him 11 years, $350 million contract extension, fourth largest ever behind Mike Trout, Mookie Betts, and Aaron Judge, $31.8 million annually. And the Padres just keep spending money on really good players to give their audience, fans, a good product.
Trev,
and try to win.
Can I tell you the secret of baseball real quick?
Okay.
This is for all our kids listening. And, we got a lot of youth listeners. I love the kids come up to Jomboy at the games. I love your videos. You're the only videos with cursing my parents let me watch. They look at me and they're like, who's your friend? Be really good at baseball, be an all-world defender, and get called up at 19. And you are lined up for the bag if you have a Hall of Fame career. Good for Manny, man.
I mean, when he first was talking about opting out, 5 years, what did he have? 5 years and 150 left on his contract. We're talking 30 M's a year. But he saw what happened in the offseason. He's like, well, everyone else is getting paid till they're 40. I'd like to have that happen to me. And my own team is handing out checks like it's nobody's business. So he pulls the leverage card, which I always reference. You just don't have leverage many times in your career. A guy that gets up at 19 who performs like Manny Machado and who has opt-outs in his contract finally gets the leverage. I thought he might actually test free agency. I did. I said that on the show because he seems like the guy that would want to. But when the team that you're on that you like playing for comes and just says, nah, we don't want you to test free agency. Here's the bag. You're going to take it. So he turns 5 years, 150 and gets another, 6 years, 170 or whatever. What the heck was it? I don't even know. I mean, congratulations to Manny. He's going to end up being with the Padres. I think in total 15 years for $500 million was right around there.
I think in luxury tax money, it's $470. I was reading the original contract and real money was backloaded, so it's maybe closer to $450, but whatever, man.
Get you $500 million, Manny Machado. And I watched Paul Seidler. He came and did like a little interview and talked. Peter. Paul Seidler is the guy from USA Baseball, and I keep mixing their names up. I'm sorry. Watched him talk about it, and he's like, look, we're trying to create a winning atmosphere out here. They understand they're the only major pro team in town, so there is a little bit of a unique situation. And he referenced that. He goes, not all clubs are the same. We found ourselves in this situation. This is how we're going to approach it. And look, they've sold out on season tickets. They have a wait list for the first time in their history. He's making an investment into his franchise, and it's paying off. Like, they are going to crush it this year. The fandom in San Diego right now is massive. And it's like, hey, other organizations, like if you want people to come, I'm going to go off on a tangent a little bit here.
I want to go off on a tangent too.
Okay, let me pass it to you one sec. If you want people to be interested in your product and come to baseball games and buy your overpriced beer, you have to put a good product on the field. There's a reason why a lot of these regional sport networks aren't doing well. It's because the product on the field sucks. And you don't who's going to watch a game when your team stinks? When you have 162 games in 180 days and you're in July and you're out of the fucking race, guess what? No one's going to tune in to watch your pre and post. Okay, so whatever you want to do with that, mix it up, get whoever you want on the call, it ain't going to make a difference. You have to invest in your team and make sure, and it doesn't have to be just free agency. You have to invest in your minor leagues, in your scouting, and your development. You have to invest in all of that to put a good product. That's the only way people are going to watch it. James?
Well, I'll pass it to Jake first because it's not the same tangent.
I started off.
Oh. The Orioles owner is pissing me off because he's like, And someone other owner did this. Was it the White Sox? It was like, well, have the Padres won yet? Now all of a sudden that's your end goal, to win, not to make money, because they're gonna make more money on fans and TV, like Trev's saying. But there's like been 2 owners now that have come out and like kind of like poo-pooed the Padres, like kind of laughed at him, like, oh yeah, look at that guy spending so much money, not even winning yet. It's like, he's good. He's winning more than you. They're going to get a better return. And then the Orioles owner says, oh, we want to be like the Rays. Rays haven't won. So what is it?
Be like the Astros or the Dodgers.
Why would,
That's
like,
what I would
you could choose
emulate.
teams. Yeah, the Astros, like, you could choose teams that are great at development. It's like, we want to be like the Rays and the Indians or the Guardians. They haven't won. Maybe the dumbest comments and the most frustrating comments for a young team that's like on the up and up and doing well. Don't say that out loud. But for the Padres, I've been saying this for 3 years now. Fun place to be a fan.
And we need to put more respect on Peter Seidler's name. We got
Trevor didn't even get it right.
I know.
I'm sorry. I love Paul Seiler as well. This is like 2 great people.
We got Uncle Steve. We got all wrapped up in that, and we've loved that for Mets fans. I have an Uncle Pete, so I'm okay if we want to go Uncle Pete. I know the Padres fans are calling him Daddy Pete, like that, obviously, because they're the Padres
Poppy
as well.
Pete?
So that's a Poppy Pete. I mean,
That's better.
that hits my core. That literally just hit my onions. Ton of credit to Peter Seidler. This is what we need to be doing. Good for Manny, good for Padres fans. It feels like we've already done this a few times, because if they just did this once, we would have said, good for the Padres, man. They got Manny Machado. They got Xander Bogaerts. They locked up Tatis. They have Juan Soto, which, by the way, last trade deadline, that Soto conversation was a lot of fun. I mean, if Poppy Pete's giving it out to all these other guys, Soto's next. And Soto, again, he wasn't the best Juan Soto with San Diego. Guess what? If he is, and I saw him go tank job the other day, it's spring training. I know, but I think if none of us are selling Juan Soto stock, that's all I'll say. I mean, what's he going to give that guy? I will say one thing, and we do, sometimes we do, me and Jimmy like doing a game of, sometimes we'll say something that's got like a 2% chance. So we're not saying it for real, but we like putting it out there just so you hear it. I mean, there's like a 2% chance that, Seidler's, like, this is going to end up as a 30 for 30, and like Seidler, I don't know, like the money doesn't exist or something, because this dude's shelling out money like I've never seen. Never seen.
He got money.
I mean, I like that.
His grandpa owned the Dodgers.
Not bad.
So Dodgers fans love.
Oh, he's a baseball guy like you and me.
The Dodgers fans love the Seidler family. They're big fans because his grandpa brought the Dodgers to Los Angeles.
I mean, you're sounding like how you're going to sound in 30 years doing the Jimmy O'Brien, Ken Burns documentary of this whole story.
It is pretty cool, but I think he's like another.
Do we have
equity.
Like a net worth?
He's another
on this
equity.
guy?
He's like Cohen. Like they're in the same business,
Right.
Ike.
Money business.
Yeah.
Well,
get it.
Maybe
We know.
maybe his crypto portfolio is doing a little bit better than Jake's. I don't know. Who knows?
I think him and his uncle, who also owned the Dodgers, whose also his name is Pete, like started the equity thing together. So like they started a company with money and then it made more money. So they got money. I am interested in the Soto situation and also how this affects next year's free agency, which is presenting itself to be rather lackluster if you're looking for offense, except for like 4 names who are now like it's Ian Happ, Teoscar Hernandez. Ohtani was already there. And then center fielder Harrison Bader becomes like, if he has a good offensive season and can play defense, prime target. But yeah, Devers was supposed to be on the board for that free agent class, and so is Machado, and now they're both not there, and it's looking like those guys are going to get traded for if their teams make them available, because if you can snatch one of them and get the ability to give them an extension before they hit free agency, it's going to happen. So like Cubs and Ian Happ are going to get some nice offers if Happer's playing how Happer can play, and the Cubs aren't, really going crazy.
Couple things on Peter Seidler. Poppy Pete. First of all, he's a man of your own ilk, Jake. He goes back and forth between the mustache and the goatee, and he can rock both of them very well. So I was excited to see that. Because he does have the Juan Soto decision looming, and then there is Ohtani.
There's no decision for him. He's given everyone money.
If
he wants
goes
to pay
out, if he gets Soto and Ohtani, then I'm calling bullshit on the whole thing.
That's what I'm saying,
on the whole thing, dude.
Yeah, if he gets both,
like there's
all the dogs go to his house.
There's a 1% chance in 5 years. It's like I spent it all.
Yeah, like the FBI will be showing up at his house if he gets both of them. Like, no, this doesn't make sense. What's happening here?
His son and then their kids are like, Dad, no.
In this episode of Padre Succession. Looking at the upcoming free agents.
Sorry, your trust is gone. I had to go get Ohtani.
Imagine his grandson owns the Dodgers in 40 years. That would be cool.
That's part of the doc.
Yeah.
Couple guys who, hey, you might as well have an awesome baseball season. How about Cody Bellinger? You mentioned there's not a ton of free agents coming up. If that guy taps into something this year, he's going to be one of the top free agent options. Otherwise, yeah, you're right. And that pitching class could be fun, though. Maybe you've heard of a guy, Jack Flaherty, Lucas Giolito.
Yes.
There's a man. Oh, I'm excited for those boys to cook. Trev, you okay? Did you hurt your back? You're old?
Well, I was talking to old Flaherty, and I don't know if he wants me to share this or not.
Then don't.
I think I'm gonna share it.
None of us would rather be on the wrath of that.
Let's just say that he's very confident this year.
Oh, I'm shocked.
I mean,
that guy is confident.
Jack was throwing baseballs into a mattress in his hotel room during the pandemic.
Jack thinks he could win the World Series throwing left-handed.
He is like raring to go. So if you're a Cardinals fan and you like,
Trev, you sound very spring training-y right now. Just to let you know.
Well, it was more than that. So I'm not going to go into specifics, but if you're a Cardinals fan and you want Jack Flaherty in the right mindset for this year,
all right, sounds like you go to DraftKings, you find Jack Flaherty, and you bet all the overs and the Cy Young.
I'll send you guys what he said.
I'll sprinkle Flaherty Cy Young right now.
Live.
Right now.
Live. And also Trev's La Liga. The NBA is going on right now. And the official sports betting partner of the NBA is DraftKings. $5, any pregame money line, and you get $150 in bonus bets. And then you can put that on the Flaherty to win everything. Download the app now and sign up with code TALKIN, like the name of the show, people. New customers can place $5 on any pregame money line bet and get $150 in bonus bets if your team wins. Only DraftKings Sportsbook. Code TALKIN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for those tales. And yeah, while Trev was reporting that, I talked to some guys who were like, I'm going to have a bad year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the guys who DM me.
Don't feel good.
All the hype guys hit up Trev.
It was just extra. It was extra. He's feeling it right now, and I love that about him.
One last thing I want to chat about before we go, or two. This is really quick. They're re-upping the sticky stuff searches because people were still using sticky stuff. If you looked at any of their numbers, it was pretty obvious. And then Eno Saris has a great article that because the umpires checked after certain innings, and it was a routine after the second inning, after the fifth inning, the innings when they didn't have checks afterwards, all their numbers were up. They're now randomly checking and doing more. And also, if a guy is taking his hand and wiping it on his jersey before going to the umpire, they're going to take that into account and be like, that's you're spending too much money. We don't think you have it. The same situation. So,
oh man,
still an ongoing thing.
If you watch your favorite pitcher and he only pitches in the dark colored alternate jersey, there might be some silly stuff happening. Just put it that way.
Yeah. The other story is this, a really cool story that I think the story ends in like 2 days or maybe a couple weeks. So I want to put it on people's radar. It's Noah Song. He was a draft pick from the Red Sox when Dombrowski was there. Drafted him out of Navy really high, thinking he could be a top-line starter. Dude opted or had to go to the Navy instead, and he's been in the Navy. Now, I'm going to butcher some of these details, so you're going to have to read the article to get like the exact, but I'm going to give you the gist of this story. He's been in the Navy for 4 years now, hasn't been part of baseball, but his Rule 5 options had come up. So Dombrowski now with the Phillies went and got him. The way Rule 5 works is he needs to be on the 26-man roster all year. Otherwise, the Phillies have to return him. They didn't even know if he could get out of the Navy and be able to play. The kid's got a quote like, I'm going to the Phillies. I hear they're kind of doing well and doesn't watch baseball at all or know anything, which is a funny quote. But he's coming. He's going to be pitching in spring training. Hasn't pitched in 4 years. And it's all eyes are on the Phillies and Dombrowski and how they handle this, because it's either he's good enough to be on the 26-man roster of a contending team, which is like, no way. That would have to be miraculous. But also there's these really weird clauses and loopholes that the Phillies and Dombro can enact. Like, let me see. The Phillies can either trade him to another team who will stash him. Like we saw the Blue Jays stash a 19-year-old Elvis something for a whole year, and he never really pitched.
Peguero, maybe?
Elvis Peguero, something like that, just to get the rights to him after the year. What's up with that kid? Because that was like a big, like he was a big test subject of like, can we ruin a kid's development, but still.
It wasn't Peguero.
They only pitched like they like
Luciano.
They like fucked with him. Is he okay?
Oh, it used to be ridiculous. And by the way, this isn't shots fired at the kid. It was like the Jays were trying something. He was literally the last guy in the bullpen, and they'd only pitch him in like blowouts. Like they were full out protecting him for a whole year, which must have been bizarre, dude.
Yeah.
Like you're on the team, but you're not.
Yeah.
He made it to AA last year.
Oh. All right.
Clicking that check though.
They can also the Dombrowski.
trends.
They can also he can get injured in spring training, which may happen because he hasn't pitched in 4 years. Now he's pitching, and then he's on the IL all year, and that could save him. And then he becomes a Philly. They can.
Oh yeah.
Or listen to this one: the Phillies can attempt to challenge conventional business by citing a rare situation that buys them more time with Song. I'm reading the Athletic article. They can. Hold on, where is it? Because Dombro said there's a technicality of rules I don't want to speculate on. The loophole is a club requesting waivers on a player, according to the MLB rulebook, guarantees that the player is capable of performing to that player's accustomed level. So if Song is healthy at the end of spring training but unable to perform to an accustomed level because he hasn't pitched in 4 years or played baseball in 4 years or 3 years, whatever it is, the Phillies could argue that they're not able to play. We can't place this dude on waivers because it's damaged goods. It's not really what we're offering. He doesn't fit the bill. And if that's the case, he would go on the IL. So even without injury, there's a loophole, and then they would have him. So I don't know. Just bizarre. Never seen this happen before. And I thought people might find that interesting. And yeah, the Red Sox eyes are definitely on Dombro because like if he does that, that's a big loophole in some weird system that I don't know if ever will even be able to happen again, but it's pretty interesting. So Noah Song, watch when he pitches for the Phillies.
He's probably like, sign me up for the IL thing. I get to like hang back, develop. I get a year of service time and $750,000. Yes.
He also like has to report on weekends for his service time too. Like it's kind of
One of those weird things. Like this cat seems like he's like a good human. So like I can see him like Phillies will be like, hey, 60-day IL. We'll see you next year. And he'd be like, no, like I can't do that. I wish I could, but I'm noble. I don't know. Trevy's a Cali boy, so that's good news for you. And yeah, I mean, know who we need to find because it said he like threw occasionally. We need to find the naval Jimmy O'Brien that was stoked to catch this guy on the boat every other week. That's the scouting report I want.
Wait a minute. This guy was not throwing on the boat.
He was throwing on the boat, babe.
No,
he says he wasn't playing. He said, it's not like I did nothing. I did push-ups and sat and ran. I don't think he played baseball.
You don't think he had a ball and a glove on the boat? Is that what we're doing?
He was flying planes. I don't
you know
know.
what?
He didn't
There's
say,
nothing more
he didn't say
American
it.
than having...
In that sentence, he would have said, like, I've been throwing bullpens. I've been playing.
He trained on the P-8 Poseidon aircraft. This is all from the top of my head. He'd been stationed in Jacksonville. Shout out. Duval. He had a glove and a ball on that boat, and he was throwing.
I imagine him having a cap in his back pocket. The glove is just like it been passed down through generations. He actually has an extra one too. Hands it to some kid that doesn't have a proper glove. Gives him his extra hat too. Oh, is that the Sandlot?
Not sure.
On a boat, though? A submarine with like the big American flag
Not a
behind it? Sign me
submarine.
up for that.
Remember when did they still play basketball games on big boats? Remember in the college they play, and then it was all slippery and it was like a terrible product. They stopped that. They were like, "Oh, this is bad."
Yeah. Playing outside.
I'm fired up now.
Okay, for Noah song.
Just America in general.
Hell yeah!
Oh, I just had a little daydream.
You play exhibition games of baseball on a boat, and you drive it past nations that don't have baseball. Is that your daydream?
My daydream was, we link up with Noah Song this offseason. He's, out in L.A. throwing. Trev's like, oh, Coach Trev, I got to meet this guy. And then he just takes him up top because he's a high A pitcher. Get out of here, Noah Song.
Oh my God,
wow,
dude.
Nice, Trev.
I would.
Exactly.
Oh, all right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. That's the show. Appreciate you.
Taiwan, people.
We'll be back later. Goodbye.
I don't recognize Chinese Taipei.
Wow. Strong
Neither do
words.
you, James.
Jake does. He's a big China guy. Jake sucks.
Chill out on the pitch clock, everyone. It'll be all right.
Give it a week.
Or it could just be horrible and we're all missing